Hey everyone, this is Lori Barnes back with a full moon video for you. This is a volatile one. You'll want to hear what's happening at the full moon coming up this Monday. Stay tuned. The Cancer full moon is coming up on Monday, January the 13th. If you're on the west coast of the US, it'll be at 2:27 p.m. in the afternoon. And if you're on the east coast, it'll be at 5:27 p.m. And if you're in Rome, Italy, where I'm broadcasting from, it'll be at 11:27 p.m. We'll actually be able to see the full moon when it becomes exact because it'll be dark outside. This full moon will be at 23 degrees of Cancer, or really 24 degrees. It's at the very last minute. So depending on where you are, if you pull up the chart, you might get 23 degrees, 59 minutes, or you might get 24 degrees. First, let's talk about Cancer. The sign of Cancer is known to be sensitive and attentive. It's compassionate, protective, intuitive, nurturing, and helpful. Cancer is a water element, so it's a very fluid sign. It's adaptable, and all of the water element signs operate on emotion. Cancer especially is empathetic and empathic. So it can really speak to somebody who can understand and feel somebody else's emotions and also be empathetic towards them or have empathy, be able to kind of sit with them and be with them. They're of the cardinal modality. Cancer is a cardinal sign. So this makes Cancer the only water sign that is that initiator. And what's great about Cancer as a cardinal modality sign is it has super sharp or super quick intuition and can make a decision very quickly without having to run it through the mind. It's just, I'm going to do this because I intuit the right thing to do. As with all signs, Cancer has its challenges and its shadow side. There can be some passive aggressive behavior that comes with Cancer. There can be some neediness, some moodiness, and there can be a tendency to be dominating. There can also be defensiveness and hypersensitivity. The psychological need of the sign of Cancer is to give and receive emotional warmth and have emotional security. And some of the archetypes that go with Cancer are the mother, the priestess, the nurturer, cook, empath, and homemaker. The sign of Cancer is the crab. There are similarities, of course, between the symbol and the zodiac sign. So I just wanted to point some of those out to you. Cancer is like a crab. It has that hard outer shell that's very protective, and it has the soft inside, which is that nurturing and mothering type of energy that tends to come along with Cancer. And of course, that relates also to the vulnerability inside. There's this clinging tendency, right? So we think of crabs, it clamps onto something with its claws, and we can think of Cancer like that too. It's a very sentimental sign. It likes to hold on to things, hold on to memories, and hold on to things that are sentimental to them that remind them of those memories. Cancer moves like the crab. So where a crab tends to move sideways instead of directly forward, that is the crab. It moves sideways. And then there's the connection to the ocean. Crabs are creatures of the water, of the ocean. They're closely tied to the tides. And of course, this is all in relationship to the moon and the tides and the water. And the moon is the natural sign or the home place of the moon. So those are some of the similarities between the symbol of Cancer, the crab, and the zodiac sign, the crab. A full moon always means that the sun and the moon are in opposition. The full moon is illuminated by the sun. So as we see this full moon in the sky lit up, it's being lit up by the sun, which is traveling through the sign of Capricorn. So we have this Cancer Capricorn axis, and we want to take into consideration Capricorn, or the sun in Capricorn, when we're talking about the full moon. So some of the keywords associated with Capricorn, where the sun is ambition, being responsible, having structure and order. It's a reliable sign. There's integrity that is associated with Capricorn, and tenacity. They don't stop, they keep going. That's why we think about the mountain with Capricorn and climbing the mountain and reaching the top. There's a resilience to the sign of Capricorn, and it's a very industrious sign. Capricorn is of the earth element, and as one of the earth signs, they all have a practicality to them. For Capricorn, that's where we can really sink into this idea of being disciplined and methodical and resourceful. Capricorn is known to be strategic. All of the earth element signs have a sensuality component to them because earth is it's tactile. It's what we can touch, and we can touch the bodies. And that's how we can associate sensuality with all of the earth signs, including Capricorn. And the earth element signs prefer facts. They don't want to go with the woo-woo, this is how I feel, or this is what my intuition says. Capricorn is show me the facts. Capricorn, like Cancer, is of the cardinal modality. It is a sign that initiates. And I do think of Capricorn as like the mountain climber. In the cardinal modality, Capricorn combines action, determination, strategy, and discipline. Some of the challenges or the shadow side of Capricorn can be demanding, cold, rigid, controlling, domineering. You probably know a Capricorn and they may be a workaholic. There can also be some inflexibility there, some insensitivity, a focus on material things, and some pessimism. But remember, that is the shadow side, and not every Capricorn is going to show every single one of these things, but this just gives you a sense of the spectrum of energies that goes along with Capricorn. The psychological need of Capricorn is to have structure, organization, and discipline. And the archetypes of Capricorn are the achiever, the disciplinarian, the ambitious climber, and the CEO. Looking at the Cancer and Capricorn axis, where we have the sun in Capricorn and the full moon in Cancer, this brings up home life versus public life, or emotional security versus material security, where Cancer values emotional security, nurturing their connections with others, especially their family and personal family bonds. Capricorn focuses itself more outward, aiming for achievements out in the world, status, material security, and goal-oriented efforts. So that is a very prominent energy that we have at this upcoming full moon on Monday. Here's the vibe. So first I'm going to look at the vibrations of all of the different energies mixed up together, and then we'll look at the chart for the full moon and see where these aspects come into play on the actual chart. So what we're walking into, we're feeling it already. Some of these things are a longer period of validity, and then some of these things are short. Like this full moon is going to come and go pretty quickly, but some of these other things are going to be in play for a longer period of time. At this upcoming full moon, and as we're going into the weekend, there's strong emotional undercurrents. It is a water full moon, and we have quite a few planets in water. We have Mars in water, we have Venus, Neptune, Saturn, and then of course the full moon will be in water. So just know that there's going to be an emotional undercurrent to this weekend and early next week. We'll be seeing themes of personal and professional priorities, that Capricorn Cancer axis that I just talked about. The energy is volatile right now, and I probably don't need to tell you that. You just read the news, go out and interact with people in public. There's a lot of volatile energy going on, and there's hyper reactivity. So people may be more quick to anger. They may be more quick to respond in a less pleasant way than maybe they normally would. And I say they, but this can also be you. So you want to be aware of yourself and how you might be reacting to situations, and know that other people may be more quick to respond in a more harsh or sharp way. And if you know people who do tend to be more fiery and more reactive, they're going to probably be even more reactive, and you want to be careful about how you interact with them if you want to keep things toned down. There may be this need for emotional release as we go into the weekend and as this energy culminates into the full moon on Monday, because full moons are about culminations. They're about reaching the fullness, as full as it can get, and then the moon starts to become less full as we wane into the new moon. So as we go through this weekend, and especially because it's the beginning of the year, you may be feeling like releasing some things, getting rid of some things, decluttering, picking up after the holidays, and just refreshing and wanting to get a new start. Watch out for that passive aggression, either in yourself or how you might run into it with others. There's this energy of holding things in, trying to keep the peace. But when we do that, it's like a pressure cooker, and it's being contained. And whatever that pressure is growing, growing, growing. At some point, it's going to blow. Just be careful of that. And if you've heard me say this in the last few videos, yeah, this is one of those things that isn't just associated with the full moon, but it's been going on for a while because Mars was in Cancer before. It went into Leo, but then it went retrograde back into Cancer. So this was a theme that was happening October, November, and now it's coming back. I just wanted you to be aware of that. There's going to be also some unpredictability, some unexpected things can happen that stir the pot even more. So do be aware that sudden shifts could happen. Things that you didn't expect to happen can happen. And it can be maybe something at work happens and it interferes with your home life or your private life, or something happens in your private life at home or with family and it interferes with your career. So just be prepared, whatever you think this weekend might look like, that there's a chance that it might shift and you might have to switch gears. The theme of reflecting on how you take action and what's motivating you to take that action, that's a continuation. That's Mars retrograde. Mars went retrograde on December 6th and it will be retrograde all of January. I'm going to talk a bit more about that in a little bit in this video. There's also this vibe of illusions or blurred perceptions, misunderstanding, misperceptions, or outright deceit. That's kind of the worst case scenario. But do be aware that there may be some fogginess. And I think that might be one of the things that contributes to this hypersensitivity and reactivity, that the actual underlying truth may not have been clear. Someone or you maybe could be reacting to something and you didn't really have all of the information. You didn't have the big picture. So do be aware of that. There may be some reassessment of relationships and values happening over the weekend. There is some tension between how you want to grow and expand, and then how realistic are those plans, and being pragmatic about how you're going to do that. And then lastly, I wanted to say that there is a lot of water happening. This weekend is going to bring this vibe of being fluid and changeable, and not everybody is like that. Some people may naturally be pretty fluid and just go with the flow and can adapt to the situation. And others who have maybe a lot of fixed energy in your chart don't really like change. You like structure and you like to have that routine. And with so much water, we're really called to be fluid and to adapt to the environment that we're in. So that's the vibe. So what can we do? I always like to give you some ideas of what to do over the full moon to soak up and absorb that energy. So here are 3 activities. The first is to journal and create sacred space. And then I have with the moonstone here, because it's a full moon in Cancer. If you have moonstones in your house, then bring them into your ritual. If you don't, if you have any white stones, bring them in, or opals, howlite. If you have rocks and they're white, bring them in. If you don't worry about it. It's okay. Or you might want to go out and buy a moonstone. That could be a fun thing to do. So the idea is to create a calming space that has things around you that are meaningful to you, sentimental to you. That's a Cancer thing. And then journal about emotions that you want to release. Set this intention of being nurturing towards yourself and think about how you want to take care of your emotional well-being. The next activity is a water cleansing activity. We have the full moon in a water sign of Cancer, and we have that predominance of water energy as we go through this weekend. Try to get near water. Go to an ocean, go to a lake. If you can't get near water, take a bath and let the water symbolically wash away these old patterns, these old emotions, things that you want to release. And you can do a visualization as the water is running over you of that releasing, that the water is taking that away. The last activity idea is to do an energy reset in your home. Choose a part of your home you want to reorganize or declutter. And if you're not sure where, think about Cancer themes. So there's the kitchen, the bedroom, or family area, or even a kid's room. If any of those rooms need some decluttering or they're a bit chaotic, focus on those rooms. Set an intention to make it nurturing and emotionally supportive. Declutter or rearrange or put some nurturing objects in there, or things that are sentimental to you, so that when you walk in and you see these things where you feel like how much space is opened up by decluttering, it creates this emotionally supportive or nurturing environment. So those are some ideas for you to do over the full moon weekend. As we talked about earlier, a full moon always means that the sun and the moon are in opposition, and this is the chart of the full moon. Of course, there's no houses because that is dependent on where you live. If you want to see where these planets fall in your location, or you want to see what it looks like in your chart, you'll have to pull that up using one of the free online calculators. This full moon is highlighting the tension between the personal life and public life. Personal responsibilities, public responsibilities. That's moon across from the sun, and based on the signs, moon in Cancer, sun in Capricorn. So some things that can come up this weekend are that balance between home and family, or balance between your career and your public life and your home life. And you may even have to make a choice or find yourself teeter-tottering between the two. Now, you probably see that right there, that Mars is with the moon, very close. And because Mars is retrograde, and of course the moon is moving forward, they are heading towards each other. They are both moving in directions toward each other. So this is a pretty potent conjunction between the moon and Mars. So Mars amplifies the volatility of this full moon's opposition. We have Mars retrograde, and Mars is also out of bounds. I'm going to talk more about that, but it contributes to this volatility of energy that we are going to experience over the weekend. It's also a continuation of energy because Mars was across from Pluto when Mars was in Leo. It was across from Pluto at the end of December and at the beginning of January. So it is still within range, but it is moving away from Pluto in Aquarius. You can see Pluto is the planet to the right of the sun glyph down there at the bottom. So yeah, they're still in range in terms of degrees, but now that Mars has moved into Cancer, it takes a little bit of that tension off of that opposition. Just be aware that there is some risk of burnout. It may not even be burning out at work. It could just be emotional burnout, maybe overwhelm and feeling the need to pull back and have some quiet times. Since this full moon is over the weekend, it might be helpful if you just stay home and create a bubble, a nurturing bubble around yourself, and just let yourself be alone. Shut off social media, shut off the television, definitely shut off the news, and try to give yourself some peace over the weekend. That could be a really good thing to do. We have the moon in a sextile relationship with Uranus and the sun in a trine relationship with Uranus. Those are both harmonious, meaning an easy flow of energy. It's not necessarily good or bad. And of course, Mars is going to be involved because Mars is right there with the sun. So this brings some instability and unexpected shifts into the energy makeup. And it can really enhance that volatility that I was talking about. There can be sudden events that disrupt the balance between your home life and your career life. This is a rebellious type of energy. It can stir up this unpredictability both in your personal life, but also in the collective experience of human beings. And of course, all you have to do is watch the news to see that that is actually already happening. So what could happen though is that private matters in your life might unexpectedly surface in your public life or spill over, or the other way around, where events in your public life disrupt your home life. We have Mars in a partile trine with Neptune. Partile means exact, and you can see that Mars is at 27 degrees of Cancer, and we can see Neptune is here at 27 degrees of Pisces. Because Mars is conjunct the moon and across from the sun, that brings all of these planets into play. With Neptune, it's adding a layer of confusion. There can be some disillusion to this energy. There can be misperceptions, there can be falsehoods, and it can fuel some overreactions. There can also be escapism. So if you have any addiction behavior problems, do be aware that all of this volatility can overwhelm your nervous system, and you may want to escape. So escaping to a nurturing bubble is okay, but escaping into substance use and abuse is not a healthy option. So I want you to be aware so you can put some things into place to help you stay healthy. Astrology, use astrology. It is a fantastic tool to look at your chart to see how all of these different energies are actually activating anything in your chart, if they're activating anything, or where they're happening in your chart, because they're always in some part of your chart in some house. And of course, your personal chart is always going to give you more information. We have Venus square Jupiter. Jupiter is retrograde. This speaks to Jupiter's vision, and its nature to grow and expand is going to clash with what Venus is doing. Venus is in Pisces. So there's this desire to have unity amongst humanity. And there is not unity amongst humanity right now. There's not unity country to country, and even within countries, we're seeing a lot of division between people within countries. And Venus is saying, no, we're all one. Let's try to work things out together. Jupiter also, it's about finding ways to expand, and they're just not working together. This tension does tend to push problem solving, but with all the volatility happening and the unpredictability happening, I don't know if this desire of Venus is going to have much of a chance to get the word out. Venus is going to struggle to assert her energy amongst this turbulence that we are experiencing. Jupiter is also associated with dogma on more of the shadow side, the challenging side. So we might get a lot of dogma, a lot of preaching about what's right and what's best and what's going to help people. Because Jupiter is connected to Venus, they're trying to get that unity happening, but they're coming at it from very different directions and potentially a one-sided type of thing. Jupiter can sometimes become very preachy, believing that its ideal version of what's right is the only way that's right, while we know that people often don't agree on what is right. They probably all agree that they want something better, but the way to do that is where that disharmony is happening. So that is an aspect that's at play over this weekend. Now, we also have Venus conjunct Saturn and in a sextile relationship with Mercury. There's a lot going on this weekend, right? So Venus in Pisces seeks unity. We just talked about that, wanting to have unity for humanity. Being with Saturn is going to anchor that. It's going to help this idea of unity for humanity to be more anchored in practicality. And that's a good thing. There's the sextile relationship with Mercury that's going to help with communication, but there is so much information that's circulating. And remember, we have that Neptune thing going on. So there can be some illusion, deceit, misinformation, or just misunderstanding of information. Even though there is this sextile, this easy flow of energy between Mercury and that Venus-Saturn conjunction, you really want to research thoroughly any information you're taking in, because you have to decide, is this fact or is it fiction? Or is it something that I'm never going to really be able to know if it's fact or fiction? But what you don't want to do is take something you get from Facebook, for example, take it as fact and go out and start circulating that as fact, because there is too much disinformation going on out there right now. We have Jupiter square Saturn. Now, this has been going on for some time. The reason why it's been continuing in an energetic vibe is because Jupiter's retrograde. So we had Jupiter meet Saturn going direct. Now we have Jupiter meeting Saturn going retrograde, and this is going to be in effect for a while. Eventually, Jupiter is going to go direct and it's going to meet Saturn again. They've been in this relationship for quite a while, and I see this aspect as looking for balance between our expansive aspirations and then the discipline and the practicality required to make that growth happen and to do it in a sustainable way. We have to think about this vision, this Jupiterian vision, with the idea of how do we make this successful in the long term. Now, we do still have the Mars retrograde happening. I mentioned that earlier. Mars retrograde affects your physical energy, how you use your energy. It is a time for you to analyze, to reflect on, where are you spread too thin? Where do you need to adjust your calendar because maybe your energy reserves are too low? This is a good time to think about 2025 and what do you want to get out of your calendar? What needs to be cut out? Mars is about cutting. That's one of the many different things that Mars does. So this is a time to reflect back and figure out what stays in the calendar and what gets cut out. It's also a time to think about how you take action. Like, how are you spending your energy? Reflect on that, because Mars retrograde is similar to Mercury in terms of reflecting, realigning, reassessing, those RE words, but it has to be about Mars' role. And Mars' role is about taking action, what you do. Personally, if you want to know more about how this energy is showing up for you, you'll look in the Cancer and the Leo house in your chart and then look at the topics associated with those houses, and that will help you get more information for you. On a positive note, I mentioned this before, now that Mars has retrograded out of Leo and into Cancer, it is easing off of that Pluto-Mars opposition, which is still within orb, but now it's out of sign. Here are the dates for you if you wanted to refresh yourself on the Mars retrograde dates. And here's the information for you on out of bounds. So Mars goes out of bounds every now and then, around every 2 years, actually. And the out of bounds period lasts about 3.5 months. This out of bounds period just started at the very end of the year on December the 30th, and it's going to go until April the 7th. What does that mean? You might be sitting there saying, I don't even know what out of bounds is. This is the first time I've heard of it. I'm glad to share with you what that is because it is important to know, especially because Mars is retrograde. So what it means is that Mars is going outside of the orbit of the sun, and that's the declination. And when it does that, it's unhinged from the sun. It's no longer under the sun's purview. It's outside of the sun's control, basically. That's how you want to think of it. And what does that mean? Unhinged behavior. It's freed from the sun's constraint, conforming. It's going to amplify Mars' assertiveness, and it can be even more assertive and aggressive than what we would expect considering the makeup. Mars conjunct the moon and having that connection with Uranus and having the connection with Neptune. Now we're saying, and it's kind of unhinged and doing its own thing and isn't getting direction from the sun. So watch out. There's a lot of volatility in the air. That's why I recommended just staying home and be in your bubble this weekend. And just remember that Mars retrograde, there's could be more fatigue and exhaustion. So if there's more unhinged behavior and there's more exhaustion, those two things together just makes people's reaction even more of a short fuse kind of thing. So what to do? Be mindful. Be very mindful of what you're saying, how you're saying it, the tone of your voice, and know that you may be more sensitive to those things in conversations with others. Seek healthy outlets for any kind of increased energy that you feel. If you're starting to feel like, oh, I can feel that inside of me, I feel like I just want to lash out, think about what helps calm those feelings. Is it going to the ocean and watching the waves? Is it going to the gym and just pounding it out? Is it going for a run? Is it meditating? You have to know what works for your body, but just be aware that that's the energy. So in your chart, these are the signs that the planets are moving through. And I just wanted to give you a quick look at that so you can look that up. And here are the astrological houses. So if you did want to see where Cancer and Leo are in your chart or any of the other signs like Pisces, because we have Venus, Saturn, and Neptune all in Pisces, you can find that be on a house cusp and then look at the house cusp here, and that's going to give you more information. Here's your quote for the full moon. Feelings are just visitors. Let them come and go. That's from Elizabeth Gilbert. I think that's a wonderful quote and mantra for you to use all weekend as we are going through this interesting Cancer full moon. I'll be back for the Aquarius new moon that's happening on January 29th at 9 degrees. I'll have a new video for you. If you'd like to set up a consultation with me, you can use the QR code or visit LoriBarnesAstrology.com. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time. Ciao.